Everyone wants financial freedom, but nobody wants to do what produces it. Everyone wants to be an entrepreneur. They want to be free and have their own schedule. And the thing is, building is rarer than it's ever been. And most people who claim themselves to be entrepreneurs have never built something. They think entrepreneur is a title, but it's a way of living. You can learn how to be entrepreneurial in your life, but you'll always come back to your true self. I'm 18 years old, and I'm building my agency from scratch at 18 years old. Also, there's a specific type of people who are more dangerous than those who claim to be entrepreneurs. They can hurt your progress and ultimately mess up your life. By the end of this video, I want you to understand something. If you're building and nobody around you is, that's not the problem, that's the entire point. This whole generation wants to be entrepreneurs or at least have some financial freedom, but they're not willing to take the risk behind it. And now the thing is, entrepreneur became a way of living or a personality. And if you ask someone what is entrepreneur, they will give you a vague definition. So an entrepreneur is someone who identifies a problem in the marketplace and finds a solution to it. They take into account the financial risks to operate, run the business, and turn the idea into reality. People like the aesthetics, the vocabulary, and the content behind entrepreneur, especially in TikTok and Instagram. Recording yourself having an entrepreneurial lifestyle is not actually doing any input. They have a vision board and they don't have a business plan. They think, oh, this is my dream outcome. But in business, this is not very tangible. Your goal should be time-bound, specific, and actionable. A business goal would be, by the end of this quarter, generate 10,000 euros, whereas a vision is, I want to make 10 million euros in my life. The reason behind it is that social media rewards the performance and not the action itself. You get likes for saying, oh, I'm doing this, or for the reels you're recording while driving a Porsche or something. And the feedback loop is broken. I want to show you exactly what this loop looks like. This is what I call the consumption loop. You watch content, you feel motivated, and you're telling yourself, I'm learning. And then you watch more content and you never do anything. Some people stay in this loop their entire life and they think they're being entrepreneurial and they're only masking their laziness through learning. Because look, inspiration without execution is only entertainment. You can watch so much content in YouTube or Instagram, but if you never take action, you're only entertaining yourself. You don't control your life, it controls you. And the minority who is really entrepreneurial makes hard decisions every day and no one sees it. And the decision to build doesn't feel like a mindset shift. The loop I just described creates a specific type of person. Very energized, a lot of ideas, but no execution. And they are a direct threat to people who are actually building, because building equals entrepreneurship. So let me show you what it looks like. They talk a lot about business, but they don't build anything. They have a new idea on Monday, they watch content by Tuesday. On Wednesday, they're very excited to start. And when you ask them Friday, what have you done? They tell you, I've been thinking about it the whole week. And sooner than you know, they have a new idea and they're doing the same thing again and again. And what makes them dangerous is not that they waste their time, but they waste yours. You spend 2 hours discussing strategy and the framing of the idea, but you're not building anything. You will not have enough energy to execute. You're constantly wasting it trying to come up with a new idea or discussing new aspect of it. Repeat this 10 times and it quietly damages your beliefs around business. One question I like to ask to these people is, what did you do today? If they tell you, I've been thinking, you need to cut them out, or at least not discuss business. I'm not telling you to cut people from your life. I'm telling you to read them accurately. There's a big difference. Look, and I'm not telling you this from theory. I live in this setting pretty much every day. In my university, we study international business, and most people wants to build their business but never comes around it. The course is built around corporate jobs in big companies and not early stage operators. Nobody in the classes does cold outreach or try to do cold calling. They're just trying to learn the basics and they're waiting for the right moment to start. I'm not judging anyone, but it's a different path of life. There's people who wants to build and there's people who dream about building. This creates something I call the frequency problem. When you're in execution mode and people are in learning mode, you don't share the same language anymore. And true learning comes only from execution. You can explain what you're actually doing because people have no context. I stop explaining myself, not because I'm secretive, but because it drains my energy to build. And this is the part where most people never get to. They think that isolation is a problem, but I think it's the solution. Everything I told you before, the environment, the frequency, the gap, I want to flip it completely because it means something different than you may think. So if everyone was building around you, it wouldn't be unusual. and it wouldn't be as rewarding, and the friction you experience is the proof that you're crossing the line that most people aren't willing to. And trust me, feeling out of place in your environment is a good thing. At first, it may not seem like it, but it means you've outgrown the frequency rather than not fit in. I want to use something I call the rarity equation. Most people who claim themselves to be entrepreneurial will never build anything. The ones who do are rare, and rare things are very valuable. You're either choosing to be rare or not to be rare. There's no middle in between. Let me give you an example. Imagine working in isolation is a deposit that no one can see. The bank account looks empty for a long time. After many deposits, at some point you will see that money, and it will be disproportionate to the work you've put in. And the people who are entrepreneurial are rarely in the same place. They're also building somewhere in this world, and at some point you will connect. But the way to connect with them is giving a signal. This may be recording content or going to social settings. You need to get out there in the world. In the start, I mentioned why most people aren't building anything. And it's not laziness, they're just waiting for feelings that will never come around. You will never feel ready. And the only way to feel ready is to start doing something. And then you become more and more confident. And you'll never be confident until you start. I really hope that this video gave you some clarity on this subject. And with that said, I will see you next week.